Listen, I need to tell you a story because if you miss this one idea, your entire deal can collapse overnight. So check this out. One of the strangest deals I've ever seen fall apart happened because of a secret habit the seller didn't realize even mattered. The business looked perfect. Seven-figure revenue, happy customers, strong SDE, and really clean books, audited, balanced. The kind of deal you'd send to an SBA lender with confidence and say, hey, can you take a look at this, score it? But 2 weeks before closing, the buyer discovered something by accident. Every Tuesday and Thursday at exactly 6 a.m., the owner sat down with a cup of coffee, opened a handwritten list, and personally called every one of his top customers. Not to sell, not to pitch, just to say, hey, just checking on you. Need anything this week? You didn't have a CRM system, no automation, no delegation, just him, his ritual, his habit. And here's the crazy part. That tiny habit was the entire engine of the business. The minute he found out, his stomach kind of dropped because he knew he wasn't going to be able to make those phone calls because he couldn't replicate that relationship and that behavior. And without that one habit, the whole business might collapse. So think about that for a second. $1 million business held together by a ritual the seller didn't even think to mention. Most first-time buyers never see this. I mean, they're buried in spreadsheets, add backs, debt service coverage ratio calculations. Meanwhile, the real driver of the business is sitting quietly at 6 a.m. with a cup of coffee. And here's the wild part. If you don't know what makes the business tick, you can't value it. You can't finance it, you can't operate it, and you sure as hell can't grow it. Today, we're going to fix that. Hi, I'm John Stoddard from DealFlowSystem.net. And in this video will separate the amateurs from the future owners. Let's talk about how to find the hidden engine behind every great business deal. Stay with me. This is going to get good. All right. Here's an anchor story. The manufacturer with two engines, only one was real. Most people think a solid business looks a certain way. Clean books, yes, of course. Good margins, always great. Strong employees, beautiful P&L, but none of that matters if you misidentify the engine. Let me show you. Years ago, I was looking at a small manufacturing company, 20-year track record. He bought it from somebody else. 2.3 million in revenue, around 480K in SDE, great margins. I mean, the numbers were gorgeous. Margins just thick like butter, steady year after year growth. I mean, you could frame the P&L and hang it on the wall. The seller was an older guy, ready to retire, ready to go home. Let's call him Jim. Calm guy, sharp, no fluff, straight shooter. I mean, really Warren Buffett energy. And honestly, I thought this deal was a slam dunk. But something felt off. Every time I ask about marketing, he just kind of shrugged and say, well, we don't do any marketing. Referrals just come in. And it's been like this forever. All right. So I asked about sales and he did the same shrug. We don't do any outbound. No sales reps, no trade shows. Listen, when someone tells you they do zero marketing and zero sales and the business is booming, your spider sense should start dancing a little bit. So I kept digging. I toured the shop. I watched the workflow. I met with the staff. I checked the backlog. Everything looked clean, dialed in, predictable. Yet something still didn't add up. And so finally, one day, I asked him straight, where does your best business actually come from? And he paused. And he kind of smiled, looked down at the floor, and then he said, "Yeah, come with me." We walked into this tiny side office, barely big enough for a desk. And he opens this drawer, and inside, he had stacks and stacks of yellow notebooks. I mean, dozens, maybe hundreds. And he says, "That's the list." I said, "What list?" "The list every customer who's ever ordered from us. I call the top ones every week." And I'm like, let me see it. And I flip through the notebook and like every line, handwritten notes, you know, talk to Sarah, needs estimate next month. Tom wants reorder, budget in Q3. Left a message for Dan, follow up Friday. Mary's thinking of switching vendors, take her to lunch. I mean, this was pages and pages. You know, that's when it hit me. This business didn't run on manufacturing, it ran on relationships. Surprise, surprise. And more specifically, his relationships. He wasn't selling machines, he was selling trust. And the entire engine was one man making 10 phone calls a day. Like, and suddenly, like, everything clicked. This wasn't a systems driven company. This was a habits driven company, a person powered machine. And that's when the deal changed. It stopped being about, is this a good business? And became, can I replicate the engine that makes this business work? So let me take a second and ask you something. Would you buy a business if the whole revenue engine was personal habit the owner never documented? Really think about that for a second, because that question, that's where deals are won and lost. All right, let me take a few minutes to share a few micro stories. This one's about Tom, security company. People thought the engine was the alarms. Nope, the engine was reoccurring maintenance calls, predictable, consistent, and cash flow on command. And then there was Scott's one product business. Everyone thought complexity was the key. Then he realized simplicity is the engine. One SKU, huge demand, zero noise. And then there was Sam's ecom deal. Ugly books, messy ad backs, and the owner was running a bunch of personal expenses everywhere. But once we stripped it down, we found the engine. Repeat buyers. Fantastic. A tiny group generating a massive chunk of revenue. And then there was a home services deal. Like that one looked perfect. Then the dispatcher quit. It turns out she was the engine. I can't go without sharing my story, my hearing aid company. I thought the engine was the hearing aids and the equipment, the technology, beats. Nope, it was trust. People didn't buy devices, they bought the confidence I was helping programming the hearing aids to fit them perfectly. Like these are all different industries, different models, different financials, but the same truth. Businesses don't run on revenue, they run on engines. All right, here's the reveal. What buyers think drives a business versus what actually does. Most first time buyers miss this point. And honestly, it's not their fault. They think businesses run on the obvious stuff. Of course, we want to look at this, the revenue, the margins, employees, process, equipment, revenues, reviews, market demand, brand. But the real driver, it's always something smaller, quieter, and hidden. Something you cannot see on the P&L. Something the seller doesn't even think to tell you. And something buried in the day-to-day behavior of the business. And here's why buyers miss it. They look for the presentation of the engine, not the engine itself. So let me break this down simply, clearly. Every business has two systems. Number one, the public system. This is the stuff everyone sees. The website, the reviews, team, processes, SOPs, financials, equipment, inventory. This is the stuff brokers love to show you. This is the stuff buyers obsess over. And you need to do that, yes. This is the stuff that looks like the business, but the public system, that's just the skin. And number two, the hidden engine. This is what actually makes money show up. It's one employee, one habit, one relationship, one vendor, one customer segment, one weekly meeting, one ritual nobody talks about, or one skill nobody else has. And here's the kicker: most of the time, the hidden engine is not documented anywhere in the business. Why? Well, because the owner doesn't realize it is the engine. To them, it's just, hey, that's the way we do things around here. They don't know that without this habit that they built over 20 years, the business dies. So here's the bombshell. If you don't find the hidden engine, you cannot buy business safely. This isn't optional. This isn't nice to know. This is the entire ballgame. Jim Rome said, success leaves clues. But guess what? So does failure. And failure always traces back to this one moment. Someone removed the engine without realizing it. So let's talk about a few micro mistakes. Number one, most sellers didn't realize what their engine is. They can't explain it, they can't teach it, they can't articulate it, which means you have to extract it. Micro mistake number two, this right here is where 90% of first time buyers blow the deal. They buy the results of the engine, not the engine itself. They inherit a shell and they lose the core. They think they bought a business, but what they really bought was a business minus the thing that made it work. Now, stay with me. This next part is your playbook. It's the application, how to find the real engine of any business. Now, let's get practical on this one. Here's the street smart playbook for uncovering what actually makes the business tick. This isn't MBA theory. This isn't real world acquisition. This is how you avoid stepping into someone else's mess. We're going to take step one, ask the normal day question. Say, walk me through a normal Tuesday from the moment you wake up. Not, hey, what's your role? Not, what do you do here? And not, what does your team handle? Those questions are kind of polished. They're like fake answers. But a minute by minute normal day, that reveals everything. It's going to talk about hidden habits, unspoken behaviors, owner only tasks, crisis prevention rituals, relationship maintenance, and micro decisions. The engine always shows up in the normal day to day. Always. All right, step two, ask the 30-day disappearance question. Ask the seller if you disappear for 30 days. Zero communication. You're out in the ocean, no phones. What breaks first? Whatever they say immediately, that's the engine. Whatever they hesitate on, that's the real engine. All right, step three, talk to the team if you can before you buy. Not about the business, about the owner. Ask, what does the owner do that nobody else can do? And then ask, what breaks when they're not around? Also, what problem do they magically solve every time? Hey, let's call the boss. You will learn more in 10 minutes with an employee than in 3 hours with the seller. All right, step number four, look for the invisible hand. Every business has one person or one habit that quietly keeps the entire machine running. That could be a dispatcher, an office manager, a lead technician, salesperson, owner habit, or vendor relationship. You got to find that hand and understand that hand and protect that hand. Now, if the hand is leaving, you you should renegotiate or you should walk from the deal. All right, step number five, ask the master question. What rings the bell? Not what generates revenue. That's really too generic. Ask, what specific action makes the cash register ring in this business? Is it a phone call, a weekly meeting, a specific follow up, a relationship, a ritual, a quote, timing habit, or a referral partner? And when you find that, you have found the engine. So, why does all this matter? I mean, if you buy a business without identifying the engine, you're kind of flying blind. And you don't know which dial controls altitude, which lever controls power, which button ejects you. You don't know what keeps the business alive. Tony Robbins would say success is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. In acquisitions, success is 80% engine and 20% everything else. Because if the engine dies, nothing else matters. Let me take a few seconds and just ask a question to my audience. Would you buy a business if you weren't sure you could replicate the thing that makes the money show up? Really think about that, because that question has saved more buyers than any spreadsheet ever has. All right, so here's the thesis in one sentence. Most buyers who win aren't the smartest. They're the ones who find the engine before anyone else even know it exists. And if you can identify what rings that bell, you can run the business. You can grow the business. You can protect the business. But if you miss it, nothing else matters. So listen, if you're serious about buying your first business the smart way, without the hope, without the guessing, without the gamble on invisible habits, head over to my website, dealflowsystem.net. I got some really cool new AI tools. I'll show you how to find deals, review them with confidence, and structure them safely, and close your first acquisition the right way. I'm John Stoddard, and I'll see you on the next one.